and thank you for joining us today. First, I'd like to say that I hope that you and your loved ones and employees are healthy and safe at this time and for the foreseeable future. We have an audience today of close to 300 people from around the world in every region, from marketing procurement, agencies, and production resources. So why are we here? Let me set this up and then we'll get started. A town square is a gathering place in many cities where people come together to learn and to share information. And they get resources like bread and wine and cheese. And while I'm not serving bread and wine and cheese, our virtual town square is where we are bringing resources to the fore. APR has a bird's eye view of the industry and sits between marketers and their creative production resources. So in this virtual town square, we're leveraging our purview to share solutions on how to produce content during a time when a traditional approach is impossible and even against the law in some areas. I am Jillian Gibbs, founder and CEO of APR, Advertising Production Resources, and I'm dialing in from Colorado in the US. The last month has been filled with challenges, uncertainty, concerns about health and finances and how to go about business in general. And in our industry, specifically in the production of content, we've all been triaging production projects that had to be postponed or canceled or altered to work within local and federal guidelines. 2 weeks ago, we hosted our first virtual town square, which included a digital content production agency, Media Monks, a content engine, Creative Drive, and a director-led production house, Chelsea Pictures. And you can access that recording and the documents offered up by those companies on the APR LinkedIn homepage. And so we're here for our second gathering of a virtual town square, and I've been advised to share the following disclaimer. APR is vendor agnostic. We don't accept referral fees, work, or any benefits, financial or otherwise, from production companies or agencies. The recommendations we make are pure as we help our clients to navigate their options and make informed decisions that serve their best interest, not ours. Therefore, any companies we mentioned today are not tied to APR in any way. We just think they're cool, doing something interesting, or they have an alternative point of view and they're worth exploring. So we mentioned them. There are many companies offering wonderful talent and solutions, and we can only share a few at a time. But if you have ideas for companies deserving of a spotlight who are solving some challenges that will serve our great industry, please contact me on LinkedIn or email us at productionhelpline@aprco.com. Joining me today is Sue DeLopez, our Managing Director at APR, located in San Antonio, Texas. And Sue will be curating and facilitating the Q&A. Also, I want to give a shout out to Gaetana Carino, located in Chicago, Illinois. Gaetana is a brand executive producer at APR and a knowledge lead on photography and stock footage. So thank you, Gaetana, for pulling together the agenda and for choosing our panelists. So let's get started. By the way, we will be recording and sharing any follow-up documents and reference materials on our social media channels, so you can post your questions in the Q&A box for Sue to bring to the attention of the panelists. For some questions, the panelists can see your questions. They will answer directly right into the box there. So keep an eye out for that. Alrighty. That was my Why the Town Square slide, which I forgot to forward. Okay. When we spoke 2 weeks ago, we said that, gosh, we were right in the middle of triage for the most part. And understanding the negotiating cancellation fees and insurance claims, and then mitigating any financial risk that might come with a cancellation or a postponement, exploring different production approaches right away, finding existing footage to repurpose, whether it's your own or whether it's through a stock house or another type of platform. And that's why we're here today. We're going to be talking more about that. The rights management and the implications and the negotiations required to make sure you have the rights to use assets as you wish. And then standing up virtual events instead of live events or trade shows. And then this last one is really important, just planning and budgeting for production activities in the second half of the year, which is where I find most of us are now. So with large-scale production currently at a halt in most locations, marketers and their creative production partners are navigating how to best create new content. And innovative production solutions during COVID-19 are leading the way in providing production options. And we're seeing a use of stock, user-generated content, including influencers, and brand-owned assets to create compelling stories. And Lisa Mailing of Chelsea Pictures mentioned in our first virtual town square that her high-end directors are searching the internet to tell stories. Creators have to create and makers have to make, right? So if there's a will, there is a way. And I'm convinced that this pandemic will transform our society and ways of being, and our business will naturally evolve as a result. So sharing and collaborating are key to accelerating the progress. And I encourage you all to connect now more than ever and share your ideas of how to get things done. Our panelists today include a stock image library company, a company that curates user-generated content from all over the internet, and a couple that is shooting live action and photography during COVID-19 when we can't bring large groups of people together. How's that possible? We'll find out. To begin, we pulled together some information garnered over the last 2 weeks that may be useful to all of you listening, or that you can share with your company. Thank you to the WFA, the World Federation of Advertisers, for quickly polling their members around the globe and for sharing these data points that I think are interesting. Here, the WFA reports that 80% of multinational companies are deferring campaigns, but the same number are creating new content in response to the COVID-19 crisis. Last week, I sat on a WFA panel hosted by Laura Fischetti on how to produce in a time of crisis. And we polled the audience then and revealed the following: that overall, most respondents reported that, one, they're decreasing their content production spend. And I surmise that is due to the type of assets being created at this time, repurposing or utilizing lower cost options. Two, they said that they're shifting their Q2 budgets to focus on e-commerce and social media. Three, they're focusing on planning for the future. And four, they're strengthening their relationships with production partners just to work together to solve solutions. So this is excellent news for the production community. APR surveyed all of our 60+ clients across 15 different industry categories, from automobiles to CPG, to telecom, to technology, to oil and gas, and so on. And over the last 5 weeks, 50% of the work has been postponed, 40% canceled because it's no longer relevant or needed as brands pivot their strategies, and 10% was reimagined. We see now that the initial shock has worn off, and most marketers are in the reimagine phase as they shift and understand the limitations and from the parameters from within they need to work. So brands are in the midst of planning their responses to the impact of COVID-19, and production planning is critical to strategize how to produce content in this new environment. That means having production resources involved early in the process is critical. As the current situation continues, where the virus is ruling out large-scale productions and people coming in contact with each other, we as an industry need to adapt and do what is safe and reasonable to produce what is needed for appropriate marketing messages. Today's virtual town square will focus on these 3 highlighted areas in yellow: live action shooting, using existing footage, and using stock footage. So while this is a challenging period for everyone in the industry, there are several creative resources and platforms who are really stretching their capabilities to partner and create new work with brands and agencies. And that leads me to our panelists. Today we have 3 industry experts from 3 companies in the production space who serve the global marketing community in different but complementary ways. I welcome them to share how they're working with brands to overcome current challenges imposed on us as an industry to producing content. Let me first introduce Annalisa Gooden, founder and CEO of Catch&Release. There's Annalisa. Catch&Release has built a platform that enables creative and production teams to curate talent or content, from anywhere on the internet, like on Instagram, Vimeo, stock libraries, and then clear and license what they find for commercial use. So Catch&Release partners with major brands and agencies directly, like Facebook and Google, Jeep, Walmart, State Farm, Insurance, and more. We have also Matt Gingrich. Hi, Matt. Director of Strategic Accounts at Getty Images. Now, Getty Images has been around a while, and they've grown and they've evolved as the industry has evolved. And they're a traditional stock house for the most part, but they have many offerings, including over 300,000 contributors. They have a media manager, which is a digital asset management tool. and services. And they have exclusive libraries with all the major sports organizations, including the Olympics and FIFA and the NBA and so on. And Matt has been at Getty for 18 wonderful years. And finally, Robin and Adam Voorhees, known as the Voorhees, they are a husband and wife team that shoot food and still life video and photography. And they operate their own studio space out of Austin, Texas. And they work with brands such as Bacardi and Lay's and PepsiCo and Hormel. And so I'm going to begin with a few questions for the panelists, and then I'll become a panelist, and Sue will handle the questions that you post in the Q&A box. So remember, we're not selling solutions here, we're sharing solutions. So I'll start with this one. For each panel member, could you provide some opening remarks on the following? So now that we've moved past the initial shock of COVID-19, marketers and their creative resources like agencies, their in-house teams, their production partners, they're all trying to find ways to communicate to the consumer with the right tone, whilst also trying to produce, right? So many companies are struggling right now to produce content. However, each of you, which is why you are the chosen ones on this panel, each of you are working and are quite busy. So what's keeping you so busy, and how are the brands engaging you in what type of assets? Annalisa, can we start with you?
Sure, thank you so much, Jillian. This is a great panel, great discussion, very timely and really necessary to sort of help the industry continue moving forward. So the question is, what's keeping us busy, and how are brands, what are we experiencing brands as they evolve through this crisis? Mm-hmm. You know, I think it's the way that I sort of look at where we are today is with a lot of optimism. I feel that a lot of the pressures that were being put on the production industry leading up to this, changes in timelines, pressures on budget, expectations for increased creative output, more distinguished creative output, those were all sort of preparing us for this moment. A lot of the changes that the production industry is now facing, while very instantaneous and sort of overnight, it must have felt, it has felt, I feel like these are strengths and muscles that we're building as an industry that are going to help us prepare for the future. So the ability to work remotely, to be agile in how we communicate our messages, to think really critically about the tone of our messaging right now and shifting that tone quickly. I would say one of the biggest things we've noticed is just how quickly we have to go to market now. An ad that's created in a week has to kind of air that week, because the following week the message may need to change. And so that adaptability and that ability to move with culture has always been, I think, something we've wanted to do as an industry, but now we're being forced to do. And I think that's developing really interesting skill sets and muscles that we'll rely on, I think, for the rest of our lives.
Mm-hmm. And what type of assets are you creating right now? Are you contributing to the process in different ways? But for the most part, is it video? Is it, where is it? Is it?
Yeah, broadcast, digital spots, mostly okay. Digital broadcast spots, some corporate too. We're noticing a lot of clients it's just as important for them to be creating internal messaging that rallies their own internal teams as it is to be broadcasting to the general public what their stance as a brand is. So it's any and all of that.
True. That's a really good point. Great, thanks, Annalisa. Matt, you want to chime in?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, again, thank you, Jillian, for inviting me here, and thanks to everyone who has joined and taken the time to watch and engage today. So the question is, you know, what's keeping us busy? And I think it's a lot. First and foremost, it's keeping our employees and our contributors safe. And then there's just kind of dividing the Getty Images business into a couple of different pieces, which is we have the customer, our technology, and then the contributor perspective. And they've all kind of had to level up 10 notches in the past few weeks. And then with limited resources in production and limited ability to create, we've seen a shift to other parts of our business, such as our custom solutions, which is our assignments division for images and video, and then also our rights and clearances team, which can clear some of our unreleased and other third-party content. And then, of course, we've seen stock where our creative teams and our contributors have had to just aggregate content and create content at just a furious pace like never before that's relevant to what people need today, because it's not everyone holding hands and that, you know, friends at picnics. It's people in their stay at place environment. And so and then the second part is, you know, what are we working on with our customers? As Annalise mentioned, super fast deadlines. We've been a part of a lot of COVID-19 response ads, and those are anywhere from digital to television as well. Lots of social, you know, just taking a stand. And then we've also seen just normal work happening in the background as well, which is encouraging for us and hopefully encouraging for everyone else. And then we've seen kind of a unique shift to agencies and brands being willing to use editorial content, the unreleased news content that we're shooting to help tell stories or make consumers aware of how they're helping and or even just to make an ad.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. That's a lot. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
How is it challenging? Is it challenging to have for the Getty employees who are supporting all of the agencies and the clients? They're all working from their homes. Has that been challenging for you as a company?
I'll tell you what, we have made some shifts as a business not too far before all of this happened that just made everything easy kind of to fall into place and create great work from home environments, technology, and things of that nature. So it's the collaboration, despite not being together, has been astounding. It really has.
It's been amazing, right, to see everybody do this. Adam and Robin.
Hello.
Hi.
Thank you again for having us. This is really interesting and so we came from a little bit different spot. We started this thing quite busy. Clients who have known us and worked with us in the past know that we shoot remotely. So we went into this with remote shooting jobs already on the books. And that has just kind of continued.
Yeah. So we were already booked through mid-April when everything started. Mm-hmm. We did have a job cancel. We had a job that went away, as many people did. And we had one job that didn't cancel. It was a food shoot, a frozen food, and that got pushed to May because they couldn't get anywhere with food. The distributors were all empty and out of stock and everything, so that had to push. But we have a lot of people that we've worked with for a long time that are familiar with us and familiar with working with us remotely, and a lot of people have reached out. That's kept us really busy. We have had to shift in how much work we can do because we don't have a crew.
Yeah, but we've been creating both social and assets for motion and still assets for social and e-commerce, both for here in the US and abroad. Not the majority of our work we're doing right now is for other markets.
Very cool. And so can we just unpack that a little bit more? Because if traditional live action shooting isn't happening for most, then you are in a unique situation because you own your own studio, which we can see behind you, which is, that's not a Zoom background, that's your studio, right? And so what are without the crew, what are some of the ways that you're getting things done, you know, and what type of shooting is possible right now?
So we're really fortunate that we're in somewhat of a unique perspective, but there are other partnerships out in the world that also exist very much like ours, and that we are a photographer, stylist, director kind of team. So we can complement each other, and between the two of us, it just takes a little longer, but we can get the sets built, they get lit, they get styled, get shot.
We had a food shoot we did a couple weeks ago, and we normally would have at least 5. It was a still shoot. We normally have had at least 5 people there, 6 people, and we didn't have an additional food stylist to help Robin. We didn't have an assistant to help keep up with things. I didn't have an assistant to help me light. So we're doing everything and receiving packages and answering the phone. So what would have been a long 1-day shoot became a 2-day shoot.
So is it fair to say that things are taking twice as much time?
At
least. I think if you were looking at a still shoot that was a 1-day shoot, that's a 2-day shoot. Let's say it's, you're shooting some video for social or a broadcast piece, and that's something that would have been even a 1-day shoot. That could be a lot longer, because if you have more people, let's say the crew is 15 people and it's just the two of us, it's going to take a few days to get everything done.
Well, and that's good for us all to know, because
Yeah.
even the hand shoot, it is going to take
Yeah.
a much longer to achieve a shoot. So
And being in the still life and tabletop world, I mean, we are not the only ones. There's a lot of still life tabletop photographer directors who have their studios, have their equipment, and can work in this capacity. There's a lot of really talented people out there.
Or even if they're not in their studios now, they have their equipment and they can set something up in their garage or their apartment. A lot of people can produce work now.
yeah, there are. For those of you listening in and you know of other resources, as Robin is describing, put them in the chat box. You know, I know of a couple in London who was in a similar scenario. I forget their names, but let's make sure to start adding that to the chat. So to Matt and Annalisa, since repurposing existing footage or stock footage is the go-to right now, outside of these unique solutions here we were just talking about, can you speak to the range of possibilities to be original and creative?
Sure.
Matt?
I'll start that if you want, being the stock. So for us, it's I mean, I see it as a multifaceted ability. I mean, not just from a Getty perspective, but from content that's online, that Catch and Release or Rights and Clearances team would help with. So we've got our existing libraries, which have always been there and always been helpful, but work to help people create new content. We have 300,000 contributors who make up our library, who are around the world, and we are giving them creative briefs at a really quick pace of things that we need, whether it's working from home or homeschooling or e-learning, or how do you stay fit in your home, or getting food delivery. I mean, like all of the different things that we are becoming the hopefully temporary new norm are things that we're asking our contributor base to create, so that there is relevant content and people aren't stuck having to use stock or animations or illustrations or just text. We want there to be relevant stuff out there. As far as other options, I mean, I had mentioned editorial before, and I think that that's a great option when it's available to you, and it's not something that I would say is available to everyone. There are certainly risks and costs involved in making sure that everything is properly cleared, because it's not content that was ever shot for advertising or commercial purposes. So there are model releases or copyrights or things of that nature to be gained. And then, I mean, I think the opportunity that I'm happy about, at least in the US, is for SAG signatories. The JPC and SAG have kind of finally recognized the existence of stock and taken a little heat off of using it. So it's made some agencies who were previously gun shy of getting in trouble and doing the wrong thing allow their producers to use us.
Yep. So that's great. So for those of you who don't know, there's been a many year sort of dispute between the Screen Actors Guild and the JPC, where they're saying that you've got to pay for the people that are appearing in the stock footage. It oftentimes those people that if you could talk to a little bit about the how the licensing works for you in your footage, or your images from your contributors. You have your releases in place, right? And
yeah.
Can you talk through that so everybody understands how that works?
Sure. So I mean, I would first split our library into two sections. We have editorial, which is news, entertainment, sport, archive, essentially the unreleased library, the stuff that was shot for news or factual purposes. And then you have our creative library, and both of these contain both images and video. And the creative side is shot for stock, and that's not even accurate in and of itself. It's shot for creative purposes, meaning model releases were gathered and we have them on site. It means that if there's a property release needed, if there was a a brand logo on someone's shirt that it's been removed, that it's gone through a team, not just to make sure it's creatively acceptable, but also legally acceptable. You get all sorts of weird companies coming out of the woodwork saying, like, that's my perfume bottle, or that's my, this, that, or the other, and trying to kind of make, I guess, help curate what is and is not acceptable within stock libraries. And so that's a huge part of what goes into creating our creative library, is making sure that it is a commercially viable resource for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good. So most of your stuff is licensed. You're able to license the image, and it includes the cost for the model or the actor is included for the most part.
Correct. Yeah, they've given their rights to be used in any commercial setting. I mean, there's caveats on sensitive use, but otherwise, yes.
Yeah, and about 6% of production costs are talent costs. Thereabouts. Depends on the type of industry and type of creative that you're creating. But this is an important thing right now, is that those costs will go down for marketers who are using stock footage where the licenses and the rights are included. So that's a really positive thing. It's funny that over the years that I've been in the industry, and I've looked at a storyboard or a layout, and I've said to the agency and to the client, well, let's explore stock for that. And they always want to shoot it. It's just, it's got to be just so, we've got to shoot it. And so stock was never really good enough. And now the tables have turned, right? That we're really looking at the stock in a way that in the short term is serving a purpose. And I just wonder how it's going to impact us over the long term, as it relates to.
No, agreed. And I would say, that certainly there's the stigma of stock, which is something that we've been working for a long time to dispel, if you will, and to create against.
Yeah, good. Thanks, Matt. And Elisa.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great foundation for Catch and Release. We have a motto that we say, search before you shoot. So we believe that the internet has such a vast, we know that the internet has such a vast array of content being added to it every single second, probably enough to produce everything you need to produce for the next several years. And going back to the question, which is around how do brands produce original creative at this time, to me, having access to the broadest range of creative you possibly can that's already been shot, the broadest range of existing footage and photography that you can find, really allows you to play, to develop and to hone creative control in the editorial phase of a project, where it really becomes about how you stitch pieces together, what kind of music you pair with it, what the VO and the script is saying. Really, the content is limitless. As long as you can get the rights, it's limitless. So in the example that Matthew was describing, Getty's getting all of these releases in advance and making that released content for the most part available to search and to license. Catch and Release is actually a tool that sits on top of the internet and turns non-commercial assets into commercial available assets. So we deal with all of the rights, clearances, and indemnification once you've identified what assets you actually like, which allows you to keep pace with what the internet is producing every single second. So that idea of originality is really interesting, because you actually could be accessing content that has literally never been used in a commercial before, not dissimilar to the originality you get in original production, where you're actually buying that footage. No one else has used it, no one else has it, no one else can use it in the future. The internet actually is a tool that allows you that same creative freedom and that same creative control, but it does require a change in behavior. And we're seeing a lot of clients that are working with existing footage for the first time in many cases, who have never really worked in that medium before. And I do see it as a creative medium, and I see it as a skill that the creative industry is developing and honing. And we're seeing editors starting to tell new kinds of stories, creative directors starting to imagine new kinds of stories, knowing that they're going to be producing it with existing, which makes them search differently, which makes them composite differently. It's such an interesting blossoming that we're seeing.
It is indeed. It's very, very exciting to watch this play out, and the creative the creativity that's being brought to the table, and the quality of the images and the footage that's being chosen isn't always commercial quality. It's really about the editorial piece of it, the storytelling, how it all comes together to convey the message.
Yeah, I always told clients that it's emotional integrity trumps image resolution. Like if the shot is emoting the right thing, we kind of forget about, forgive, I suppose.
Adam and Robin
that
are
it might be
laughing.
handheld. We forgive a bit, we get,
yes,
and I think as consumers, I think your consumers, and I'm speaking now to everyone here who is marketing to people, your consumers are very comfortable seeing low-res content in their social feeds every day. We're very, very comfortable with editorial look and feel. And so you shouldn't be afraid to market with that content as long as you're sensitive and thoughtful about how you're putting that story together.
There's something about it that seems very authentic when done that way. And of course, Adam and Robin are laughing because they're all about high-end, high-quality photography and footage. I wonder if you could just talk a little bit about, Annalisa, about user-generated content, about UGC content, just in terms of what are the challenges to finding it and wrangling it and getting a license to use it, and you've got to contact these people who didn't intend for their content to be used in any way. How does that work?
Yeah, well, it definitely requires, in order to do it quickly, and a lot of the COVID response ads that we've been a part of have needed to ship within 3 to 4 days of brief. So incredibly fast turnarounds. And when you're pulling from a content source that didn't sign up to be commercially licensed yet, you have to be very accurate about who you're going after and how you're going after them to make that happen as quickly as possible. So user-generated content is a wonderful medium. Like Matt said about the stigma of stock, we also have to dispel the stigma of UGC, that it's not all amateur content. Actually, a lot of it is professionally produced. In fact, I bet Adam and Robin probably are posting amazing stuff that customers would want to license to their own Instagram feeds. So there is a lot of, like Robin said earlier, great talent out there, and directors that you may be hiring for shoots or have hired before, that are posting personal content to their Vimeo and YouTube feeds. So it is quite a range. There's a real range in quality there. The thing you have to be really careful about are the rights. And so we've developed tools that help you navigate content that's likely to license or not likely to license, so that right up front, if you're going into like a red zone with a piece of content that's never going to clear on time, or if you're going into a zone that actually is safe and manages your expectations to actually ship successfully. But you do need those tools. You do need that knowledge that usually comes with a business affairs sort of head to navigate the open waters of the internet. So without a tool or without that expertise, it can be a bit daunting to both find that stuff and also find stuff that actually is going to license on time and safely.
It's really
great.
We
try and mitigate that.
Yeah, good for everybody to hear, because there's a plethora of options and creative assets and creative people out there that to be able to access them and utilize them in the way that serves the messaging is really important and sometimes challenging.
And the thing I would add to that too is that the way that communicating with people on the open internet who didn't opt into a commercial license when they posted their shot is really important too, because we always want to make sure that the brand's image is up and reputation is upkept throughout the entire process, right? Like, you don't want to create any bad press in that process at all, or any kind of bad taste. And so, dealing with that diplomatically and with as much, transparency and consent as possible is really the
exactly. That's a difficult thing to navigate, and you don't have a lot of time these days to work it out, if it requires more time. One thing for the Voorhees, there are definitely challenges to shooting now. You don't have a client who's can you hear me? You don't have a client who's there on set with you, an agency who's with you, so how do you when you're shooting live, how do you collaborate with your clients and their agencies?
So we mentioned that we do have clients that are used to working with us remote, but a lot aren't, and we are used to having 15 agency and client people in the lounge over there hanging out. So how do we create a collaborative space for people that are used to not being able to work remote? And there's a lot of ways to do that. The one thing, I had a producer reach out and ask about shooting some footage and how do we share that footage, and how do we do something like, your normal video village that you have set up. You are you're at a shoot, you're in video village, you see the live feed, the event happens, there it is, and then you cut to playback. And I set something up on this red right here on that set, and this is just a loop playback.
So you're showing us now, for those who can see the screen. He's sharing.
So this is the same. This is like video village in your living room, right? So the shot happens. Here it is. In the same instance, you could have a feed from a camera where you see the set, you see glassware and plates that you're trying to choose from. That's a really interactive way to do it.
I mean, that feed that he was just sharing is, you can see a cord running all the way back, like it's coming from the camera on the set over there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, our experience is so many times we've had people come here and not all of the players could be here in our space, and people were taking pictures with their cell phones and sending them back of the screen. Well, this way we can all just see the better quality screen at one time. And it's a lot of texting, and it's a lot of notification, and it's a lot of getting on the phone. So we'll set up shots and we'll get them ready, and then we'll text people and say, be ready in 5 or 10 minutes. We need to jump on a video conference, or do we get on a phone call and let's everybody talk through it, review it, see what you think. We'll make the changes. If we're doing live feeds for video, then we can do the changes right there and you can see them as they happen. Sometimes it takes a long time to get feedback. And so if you're working with somebody who has enough space, what we like to do is we set up multiple sets, especially if we're doing multiple shots for somebody. So we'll get one set up, and if it's a product or a set that can just hold itself. Obviously food is really fussy, and some of it fades very fast. So in that one, speed is key. But otherwise, we can set up a shot, send it, whether it's video or still, and you can take the time to give your feedback, and we're gonna move on to something else and get the next one ready for you. And it's kind of that continuous flow, and we'll just text you, call you, email you. I will say that getting somebody on the phone or on video is the absolute best, because emails can be not understood as easily. So please just talk to somebody.
But simple things like a group text chain, everybody who needs to see it's on a text chain. All right, in 5 minutes, check your email. It's that simple, but it can be everything from a live feed to text messages and email.
There's a lot of coordination now more than ever, I've noticed in the last 4 or 5 weeks, just in collaborating with other creative partners on behalf of the client with the client and their creative agencies, whether they're in-house or external. There's just a lot of communication going on right now. And some of the tools, that we're using, use Slack or Skype or Google Hangout or Zoom, obviously. So there are WhatsApp even, just to kind of get those groups together so that you can have quick and efficient communication, so that, as you plan and as you put together the project, that finding a way that works for everyone to communicate is really important right now. The platforms, the technology, we're producing hundreds of times more assets than we ever need and we will need. And I find this may be a little controversial, is that our traditional creative process of setting up a brief and sharing the idea and then going and producing it, that is a slow and laborious process. And that I can't help but think that the time that we're in right now, this acceleration that you were talking about earlier, Annalisa, that it's going to propel us forward to be able to start to look into more platforms that provide us with the data needed for assets to be created on the fly. So these libraries, the libraries that exist, the clients' existing libraries, the curated content from the collaborators around the globe, that use UGC, all of that to be accessible and to be sorted through, sifted through on a platform, and then automate and create content, is where I'm seeing some developments happen in the industry with some companies that are standing out. A company that is right here in Denver called Shotzr. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them, but they're worth looking into. It's Shot, S-H-O-T-Z-R. Another company in France called Miro, M-E-E-R-O, and a company in the UK called Splento, S-P-L-E-N-T-O, all curating content and creating libraries, but with a strategic approach to what should be in the library. So it's similar to what Getty does. It's similar to what you're all doing, right? But I think there's an element of how can we do this faster and more efficiently that is happening now that's going to be available to us in the next few months in better ways than we've seen. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Sue, who's been curating the Q&A.
Yes, thank you. We have some great questions. I'll go ahead and get started. I have one for Annalisa and Matt. What is the realistic amount of time to allow to find content for a creative spot, let's say 30-second spot, when every production right now is under the gun to get the spots live ASAP? Can you give us a realistic timeline?
I'll
Same
start.
way.
Yeah.
It just has to be, it is what it is. It just has to, the show must go on, as they say. So there's plenty of content out there. It's a matter of filtering it down to what fits the creative and what can be shipped immediately. I think that, again, the industry has been operating under that gun for a while now, that sort of sense of urgency and speed. Now it's just sort of, we're all doubling down on it. So, I mean, the examples of recent commercials that have been briefed, cut, and shipped using that we've been part of anywhere from 2 to 4 days. Very, very fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that that saying, you know, we can, it kind of really all depends on what you want. It is kind of part of the truth of this is, you know, how much content you need. Is it something that's already cleared like stock where we can do it in 10 minutes? Or is it something where you do need an assignment, or you do need to get third-party clearance for editorial? So there's a lot of variables in there that need considering, but I would say, you know, it's worth calling and having that conversation to talk about what that creative is. You know, we've done rights and clearances or stock in under 24 hours, like Annalisa, and we've also done custom photo shoots for people in under 24 hours. So it really all depends on what that creative is and how complicated it is as well.
Mm-hmm. I would also say being flexible is important too, that taking that creative vision and understanding that, you know, certain pieces of it have to bend a bit and shift a bit, but being open to the possibility that you'll have something amazing at the end is important too.
Yeah, actually there's a question related to that, Annalisa. So beyond curating specific scenes that are just based on creative requirements like location, talent profiles, and action, how do you ensure that all the selected shots feel like they're part of a single creative vision, cinematography, tonality, attitude, rather than just a mosaic of shots just strung together?
Yes,
so you talked about the creative vision. So
yeah, that's a great question. I think that it comes down to a lot of manipulations and editing. So from a sourcing perspective, there's a lot of content that we can source from the same filmmaker or photographer. So sort of honing in on very specific portfolios of people, or even, you know, multiple scenes from films that they've independently produced can help establish a sense of continuity. And we've seen beautiful examples of customers turning entire spots made from existing content into spots that you wouldn't necessarily know have anything but original production in them. So it can absolutely be achieved. Other tricks that we've seen our clients use is, you know, in editorial and in post-production, how they colorize the entire spot at the end, slowing down the frame rate here and there, just kind of really, you know, working with it like clay, and sort of honing it to its final state can also help establish sort of visual continuity, maybe not character continuity, but at least visual continuity in the final spot. Okay,
great. I do have a question for the Voorhees. How are you guys handling specific elements of production? Any talent being used? hand models, hair, makeup, styling. How are you handling all of that? And then also, what is that effect on the estimate is like? When you, how do you estimate, cost when you're dealing with so many unknowns or not the usual variables that you actually contemplate on your estimates?
Sure. At the time, no, we're not incorporating any hand talent. I think one thing that, one way to think about things is, as far as working with people, is you can find a lot of still and tabletop directors and photographers who can match footage. So if you were to find some pieces through stock or existing things, but you wanted to incorporate your own product into there, find a photographer or a still life director who can match the light and create it.
Yeah. Obviously, we can't bring anybody into the studio right now, so that's not something that we're doing. But food, beverage, products, still life, that's what we're focusing on. But when it comes to the budget aspect, I think that's a totally different conversation and a big conversation, but it's something we've thought about. So I think that I think you would think of what you're trying to produce from a traditional standpoint, and maybe that's your jumping off point. You say, okay, traditionally this would be a 2-day shoot. This is what the cost would be. But given the situation, it's going to take 4 days. Well, if say it's Phantom camera, and now we're looking at the Phantom camera for 4 days, that's a ton of money. Say all the doodads that go with it, $10,000 a day, doubling it, your director's fees, doubling it. Things, you're not going to have the same crew costs, but they could get really expensive really quick. So how do we create something more like a project fee? Do we look at what that traditional cost is and say, okay, this is kind of our base point, and let's all be fair and work together and realize the timings and things are going to be different. Bigger conversation, but I think that's kind of at least a point.
And while I have you, people were very excited about your virtual video village. So the question is, do you also have camera on the food you're styling to approve in real time before it goes on set?
Yeah, we absolutely could. And I'm surprised at how easy this is. It took me, it didn't occur to me, this is stuff we just had, and it took me 2 to 3 minutes to set it up. So it's just an extra camera that you plug into whatever you're using, whatever computer. You just plug in multiple cameras and you can have multiple feeds. It's simple stuff. And many photographers and directors, DPs that are out there can do stuff like this. Yeah. It's not hard.
Awesome.
In any other product or styling, there's a lot of fabricators and a lot of stylists for things that can work remotely. So that's another thing. Our fabricator that we constantly collaborate with for 5 years now we've almost never met him.
Yeah, met him once.
All right, fantastic. I do have a question regarding stock specifically. How can I assure that if I get stock from you guys, my competitor will not use it when my rights are due?
Good question. So we have the ability at Getty Images to offer a freeze where we'll pull the asset off of the website. We can also let the customer who is interested in using it know who has used it in the past. And then that's available for all of our content.
Great. I have a question for Annalisa. Has Catch&Release increased their search staff to handle this recent deluge of requests? If so, how are the new hires able to perform at the same level as your seasoned search crew?
Good question. So it's always been part of Catch&Release's mission to totally democratize search. We believe search is a skill set that everybody in the creative community can do. What's harder to do is navigate rights and clearances and be able to predict whether or not a shot is going to be risky to license, or that requires a lot of deep expertise, and most people who have that have been sitting in a business affairs capacity for 20 plus years. So we've developed tools that actually enable our clients to be highly successful at searching. We do have a service team, a managed service team that helps. We've turned that entire expertise into a process so we can very quickly spin up new, trained, ready for market curators. In fact, we have a lot of customers that have become curators for Catch&Release as well, filmmakers, editors. But our ultimate goal and mission is actually to develop the tools that allow the entire industry to search very successfully and use their creative eye to find amazing stuff and use our engine to clear and license it.
Yeah, great. Going back a little bit to exclusivity is actually for both of you, Matt and Annalisa. Is there an upcharge for exclusivity during this times?
Yeah, Matt, I'll take that. I'll take it first and pass it off to you because I'm sure ours are slightly different. So with regards to exclusivity, the nice thing about internet content is that a lot of it has never been used in a commercial before. And so you can obtain, through Catch&Release, you can obtain exclusive rights to that content and sort of have the peace of mind that not only is it not going to get used moving forward, but it hasn't been used ever in the past either. So it is truly original content that you can gain access to. And there is, yes, there is an upcharge for it, although it's fairly reasonable considering that for most of the folks on the web, this is fairly passive income. This opportunity for them is sort of, they weren't necessarily seeking this out. And so there's a lot of room for negotiation there. But yes, it is possible.
Annalisa, can you give the audience an idea of what the upcharge is? It is a percentage? Is it, 10% more for exclusivity, or what's the going rate?
Yes, it is a percentage upcharge, and I can't quote it just now because we're actually in the process of sort of defining what that's going to be. There's been a lot of demand for exclusivity in the market over the last couple of weeks, as we can all understand. But I would also caution, I think exclusivity is great, but I also want to instill a sense of confidence in the audience today that there's going to be so much demand for content creation. Like, don't feel that consumers are going to remember every single thing you've ever made. Like the key is to just continue producing, keep putting your messaging out, continue refining, and know that that's really where your message gets heard, not necessarily in the lockup of this content.
That's a really good point, because you not everybody sees the content, and so buying exclusivity or paying the upcharge for exclusivity might not be worth the cost.
Yeah, we make it really easy. I mean, it's a very transparent process, and it's very easy to do. It's just
it's a good point, though.
Put your dollars for the next production would be my recommendation.
Well, because for many marketers, they think I have to have exclusivity, but sometimes you don't, and so it's worth considering at least.
Yeah, Matt, do you want to provide us with your answer to this, please?
Oh, yeah, sure. We do have an upcharge for when we freeze an asset or remove it from the website, and that's just because that contributor has put it up there to be licensed over and over again, and so we're essentially compensating them for it getting removed. And same if we're doing a third-party clearance, that we will kind of look for exclusivity and be able to offer that. And then kind of the other option is with our contributors, we can give them your creative brief and have them shoot it for you. And when we do that, actually that content already would come with embedded exclusivity forever.
Excellent. I do have a question that's a little bit more macro, probably looking into the future, and is to looking at the silver lining in the crisis. So the questions to any of you: do you think the actual situation will help brands and creators understand the value of bringing production upfront in the process? And Jillian, you can also answer this question, or anybody.
I think it's super exciting. I think it's super exciting. I mean, when this was taking place, Jillian, you were one of the first people that I reached out to, because I felt that from knowing what you guys are sort of doing in the industry, this must, that this is really a positive change to bringing production as a strategic partner in the process, as opposed to an afterthought. I think a lot of our clients at the sort of head of production or chief production officer level often feel like they find out about things kind of downstream, when in fact they could become a partner to the creative process and really be there to sort of share potential solutions and alternatives that maybe the creative team's not thinking about. So I think that's really important. I would say the same thing for business affairs. I think bringing those perspectives forward into the creative processing does nothing but good in terms of a plan for execution.
Mm-hmm. Matt, or the board?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I think that something that anyone who's involved in the production process, whether from a vendor standpoint, always has the mindset of why don't they bring me in earlier? I could have helped them save money or you know, do something creatively different. So I do hope that and see that there is a different understanding of kind of all three of these businesses and what they're capable of and how they provide value adds to the production process. So I do think that there is a silver lining on that front. And if I can add one other note, I would say that I hope that another silver lining would be that SAG and the JPC would allow us to be a part of the conversation next time instead of purporting rules around our business.
I'm glad you squeaked that in there, Matt.
Yeah. I'm going to turn it over to you for closing remarks. We had a wonderful question, so back to you, Jill.
Thank you, Sue. So we have some wonderful options during COVID-19, right? Including UGC platforms, search and licensing content on the internet, repurposing your own assets if you can find them in your own libraries or your agency's libraries, and seeking out the many photographers who are out there who may live and work in their own studios or have access to their own studios, which would allow you to get some live action or some still work that's done that's fresh and new for now. There's, you know, very different ways you can access these photographers, right? You can contact them directly or through their reps, or through contributor networks like Getty Images. Catch&Release has one as well. Shotzer, as I mentioned, Splento and Miro. So it's actually with a little bit of navigation, you have a lot at your fingertips. I want to say thank you so much to our panelists, to Annalisa, to Matt, to Adam and Robin for spending time with us to share your solutions. And thank you to the audience for showing up and for contributing. We will get the recording out to all of you tomorrow. And from there, I say I wish you well, and I wish you success in navigating and creating wonderful brand messages. Make good choices. Be healthy. Bye.
Safe. Yeah.
Thank you so much.